Hello friends, I am Mahesh, and on this channel you listen to horror stories straight from me. Today's story is about the infamous Waverly Hills Sanatorium. So let's dive into the chilling tale of this haunted Waverly Hills Sanatorium. A place where thousands came seeking hope, but many never left. Echoes of pain, shadows of the forgotten, and spirits still trapped within its decaying walls. Waverly Hills Sanatorium isn't just abandoned, it's alive with the dead. Are you ready to step inside? The heavy mist rolled over the cracked pavement as Evelyn Harper clutched the faded photograph of her grandmother, a young nurse who once worked at Waverly Hills Sanatorium during its darkest days. Her grandmother's eyes in the photo held a haunting sorrow, a weight Evelyn never understood until now. She wasn't here for a ghost hunt or a cheap thrill. She was here for answers, about the whispers her grandmother muttered on her deathbed, about the hollow cries in the night, and about the one chilling confession. They never left Evelyn. They're still there. Her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and longing as she pushed open the rusted gates, feeling the cold pull of something, waiting. The moment Evelyn stepped inside, the air thickened, cold and suffocating. Her flashlight flickered against the damp walls, revealing old stretchers, blood-stained tiles, and deep, unnatural shadows. But then, a shrill scream echoed from the fifth floor, a place long sealed off due to its terrifying history. Her breath caught. She wasn't alone. Footsteps, heavy, dragging, thudded behind her. She spun around, but no one was there. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted. Her flashlight died. In the pitch black, she felt it. A cold, bony hand brushing her shoulder. She bolted, but the hallways twisted, shifting like a living maze. The shadows weren't just tricks of the dark. They were following her. Hiding in a decaying patient room, Evelyn found an old journal tucked beneath a broken bed frame. It belonged to a young boy named Samuel, a tuberculosis patient who had died there in 1932. His words were filled with loneliness, fear, and a desperate longing for his mother, who never returned after leaving him for treatment. One entry read, "Mama promised she'd come back, but the dark man keeps telling me she's gone. He says I belong here now." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes as she pictured the scared boy, lost and trapped in this nightmare for eternity. She could almost hear his voice, soft, trembling, whispering, "I'm still here." The journal's pages ended abruptly, but something felt off. Evelyn noticed faint blood smears forming a pattern, a map. It led her to the infamous body chute, where thousands of corpses were once secretly dumped. As she descended into the cold, narrow tunnel, the walls pulsed with a sickening energy. Then she saw it, hundreds of shadowy figures lining the chute, their hollow eyes watching her. But in the center stood something worse, a towering figure with no face, its long arms stretching towards her. It wasn't a ghost, it was something ancient, something that fed on the souls trapped here. Evelyn stumbled back, her screams muffled by the heavy darkness as the faceless entity surged forward. Barely escaping the tunnel, Evelyn collapsed outside, gasping for air. But in her hand was something she didn't remember grabbing, a rusted key with the number 502 etched onto it. Room 502, the place where Nurse Mary supposedly leapt to her death or was pushed. The stories always hinted at a deeper truth. Evelyn now knew that what lurked within Waverly Hills wasn't just restless spirits. It was something far more sinister, and whatever it was, it wanted her inside that room. As the chilling wind howled through the trees, she made a silent promise. She would return. Evelyn Harper stood before the towering entrance of Waverly Hills once again, the rusted key to room 502 trembling in her hand. The cold metal seemed heavier now, as if it carried decades of pain within it. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. They never left Evelyn, and neither did she. The mystery of Nurse Mary's death had haunted her family for generations. Evelyn's grandmother had worked alongside Mary, but there were pages missing from her stories, secrets she took to her grave. Evelyn wasn't just walking into a haunted building tonight, she was stepping into the shadows of her family's past. With a deep breath, she crossed the threshold, determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The sanatorium greeted her with an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional creak of rusted beams. As Evelyn ascended the winding staircase to the 5th floor, the air thickened, heavy, damp, and cold. Her flashlight flickered wildly, casting jagged shadows along the walls. When she reached the infamous room 502, the key in her hand grew ice cold. She slid it into the lock, and with a rusty click, the door creaked open. The room was suffocatingly dark, but Evelyn could feel it. A presence. Then the door slammed shut behind her. Her flashlight cut out. Total darkness. She gasped as icy fingers grazed her neck. Suddenly, the room exploded in whispers, thousands of them, until one voice cut through, sharp and agonized. "Get out before he sees you!" A figure appeared in the corner, a nurse, blood dripping from her hollow eye sockets. Her broken neck twisted at an unnatural angle. Evelyn stumbled backward, but the room warped, walls shifting as if alive. Something was coming, something far worse than the ghost of Nurse Mary. Through the chaos, Evelyn found a blood-stained diary buried beneath the rotting floorboards. Nurse Mary's. Its pages revealed a grim reality. Mary hadn't jumped from room 502. She was murdered for uncovering a dark secret within Waverly Hills. She had tried to expose brutal experiments on patients, but before she could, someone silenced her forever. The last entry read, "They're using them, the sick, the dying, for something inhuman. I fear I won't leave here alive. If someone reads this, please tell my sister I tried to stop it." Tears welled in Evelyn's eyes. Mary wasn't just another ghost story. She was a victim, her truth buried under decades of lies. Evelyn realized her grandmother had known and had carried that guilt for years. A loud crack echoed through the room as the walls split open, revealing a hidden staircase leading deep beneath the sanatorium. Driven by the need for answers, Evelyn descended into the darkness. She emerged into an underground chamber, old, damp, and filled with forgotten hospital equipment. But in the center stood a grotesque sight, a massive iron door covered in strange symbols. It pulsed as if breathing. Suddenly, a hand slammed against the other side of the door, then another and another, until dozens clawed at the metal. Evelyn's blood ran cold. These weren't human hands. A chilling voice echoed around her, deep and guttural. "The seal is breaking. She brought you to finish what she started." Evelyn realized Mary hadn't just tried to expose human corruption. She had tried to stop something much worse, something ancient, something still trapped. Until now. Evelyn bolted from the chamber, the echoing voices still chasing her. But as she reached the main hall, the building trembled. Cracks split across the walls and the air filled with agonized screams. Clutched in her fist was a torn page from Mary's diary. A crude map leading to the sanatorium's west wing, an area long since collapsed. Scrawled at the bottom were chilling words. "The gatekeeper is still here. Find him before it's too late." Evelyn now knew she wasn't just facing restless spirits. Something deeper, darker, was unraveling beneath Waverly Hills, and it wanted out. Rain lashed against the broken windows of Waverly Hills as Evelyn Harper stood at the threshold of the collapsed West Wing, her clothes torn, her hands bloodied, and her heart pounding with the weight of generations. In her pocket, Nurse Mary's final diary page fluttered against the wind, its ink smudged but legible. "The gatekeeper holds the key. Free the lost, or they'll never rest." Evelyn's mind was a storm of emotions, grief for the forgotten souls, horror at the darkness lurking beneath the sanatorium, and guilt that her family had been unknowingly tied to its curse. But there was something deeper, a resolve. She wasn't leaving until this was over, even if it cost her everything. Navigating through the decaying ruins, Evelyn found a hidden staircase spiraling downward, deeper than any blueprint of the sanatorium had ever shown. The air grew colder with each step until she reached a cavernous chamber lit only by the glow of ancient symbols etched into the stone walls. In the center stood an iron altar, and beside it, the gatekeeper. He was tall, his skeletal form draped in decaying robes, his hollow eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Chains wrapped his wrists, anchoring him to the altar. Evelyn's breath caught as he turned, his voice a raspy echo. You brought the key, but at what cost? Before she could speak, shadows erupted from the walls. Dozens of twisted spirits, their faces frozen in agony. They lunged at Evelyn, their screams deafening. She swung her flashlight wildly, but it shattered as the cold hands of the dead clawed at her. Just as she was about to be pulled under, a blinding white light tore through the darkness. Evelyn gasped. Standing before her was the spirit of Nurse Mary, her face no longer twisted by pain, but calm, almost serene. Mary's spirit knelt before Evelyn, her ghostly hand reaching out. I tried to stop this, but I failed. You can end it. Her voice cracked with grief. Evelyn, tears streaming down her face, finally understood. Mary had never been at peace. The curse had bound her here, her soul trapped between guilt and duty. Evelyn pulled the locket from her pocket, her grandmother's, and inside was a photo of Mary and her sister, a bond broken by tragedy. She forgave you, Mary. My grandmother forgave you a long time ago. For a brief moment, the chamber fell silent. Mary's ghost smiled, tears glistening, before she vanished in a soft silver mist. The spirits froze, their torment lifting, as if the very air sighed in relief. But the peace was short-lived. The gatekeeper roared, his chains snapping as he surged toward Evelyn. "The seal breaks tonight," he bellowed. Evelyn, clutching the rusted key, realized the horrifying truth. The sanatorium wasn't just haunted. It was a prison for something ancient, something not meant to walk the earth. In a desperate act, she plunged the key into the altar. The ground split open, tendrils of darkness clawing out. But then, a miracle. Light poured from the cracks, golden and pure, consuming the darkness and the gatekeeper along with it. The spirits, once trapped in agony, now drifted upward, their cries of pain transforming into whispers of peace. Evelyn collapsed to her knees as the sanatorium trembled, its walls finally giving way, the weight of centuries of horror lifting at last. Days later, Evelyn stood at the edge of what was once Waverly Hills Sanatorium, now a pile of rubble. The storm had cleared, leaving behind an eerie calm. In her hand she held the locket, its silver now untarnished. The souls were free. The curse was broken. But more importantly, Evelyn had uncovered the truth. That silence breeds darkness, that buried secrets only grow stronger with time. She knew now that history wasn't just something written in books. It lived in places, in people, and in the pain they carried. Before leaving, she placed the locket at the site, a final tribute to the forgotten. As she walked away, Evelyn felt it. Not the cold pull of lingering spirits, but warmth. The sanatorium's shadows were gone, but the lesson remained. The past only haunts us when we refuse to face it, and sometimes the only way forward is to forgive.